deck tends to lose is by just being on the draw, falling behind, not being able to kind of snowball that onboard advantage we keep talking about. But you're not going to have to worry about that if you're on the play for the rest of your matches in the tournament.
And speaking kind of our picks in the top 8, where I think his deck might struggle a little more against red decks. I could see him being knocked out by one of those early on. Zan has got to be one of the favorites for this tournament as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the big thing that could end up holding Tomiko back, is if he dies to a quick draw from the red deck. But if he can make it past there, I'm feeling good.
So we start here. Zan will be on the play. When we saw this matchup before, actually, no, I don't think we've actually seen this specific matchup. We've seen Kenta do well against red decks, but I don't think we've seen him against the Super Friends deck.
Not that I can recall. And, we also see Glacial Fortress being the first land on Syed's side of the battlefield. That is not a sign of strength.
It is not. We see Thought Erasure turn 2 from Kenta. Now Zan, with one of his main deck copies of Spell Pierce, will actually deny the discard spell. So he's going to shock in for his first Planeswalker. Kind of 3 mana is where these decks start going to work. For Zan, shocking for red mana, that strongly suggests that he has the card Shocker Lightning Strike in his hand.
Yeah, he could have those. It says mostly that he has 2 1-drops. We see them really putting emphasis on these 1-drop spells in the deck to fill out the curve around these Planeswalkers. That's why we see Spell Pierce over something like Dovin's Veto or Negate.
And I really like the read. I want to talk about the read here from Kenta. Didn't pay off, but I think it's a really good play, and I'd like to point it out. Zan shocks for the red source, which suggests red removal, and Kenta had to pick between turn 3 Teferi and turn 3 Thief of Sanity, and he went for Teferi, reading that the red removal was there. Unfortunately, Zan had the second Spell Pierce. It didn't pay off, but I do really like the adaptive play that Kenta showed.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a spot where you just force Zan Syed to turn this Lightning Strike into, a Lava Spike upstairs, or lose his whole turn's worth of mana.
On the tap out, Zan will make his first Planeswalker. It's a good one. It's Karn, Scion of Urza. He'll start the card advantage rolling. Ticks up, shows Deafening Clarion and Sarkhan, the masterless. I was going to say the unmastered. Close.
I mean, they're one in this. It's really it's a square rectangle situation.
Yeah. Sarkhan the boss. Sarkhan he doesn't follow Nicol Bolas anymore. Kenta gives him the Deafening Clarion. Interesting is it does actually play against the cards in his hand. He does have Thief of Sanity here.
Yeah, the big thing is you just don't want to give him that Sarkhan, because then Zan just presumably gets to slam it next turn and you start dying.
Yeah. It's interesting. In a lot of ways, Jeskai is also a mid-range deck. And so Kenta, in a mid-range mirror, a lot of times you just try to make your cards line up poorly with their removal.
Exactly. You want to get some virtual card advantage by blanking a chunk of the cards that they're playing with.
Yeah, and we see that. Basilica Bellhaunt from Kenta. Zan will discard. And, Kenta gave Zan Deafening Clarion, then plays a 3/4. This adds up.
Yep, and Syed is even going to struggle to double spell it down because we only see 1 red source over there.
Discards the shock. Yeah, Zan can't... Yeah, he has double red for Sarkhan because of his land, but can't do it for burn spells just yet.
Right, and we see the 5th land hanging out in hand, so it's possible that he just does it that way, but Shock's not that valuable a card anyway.
Karn will -1 to put Sarkhan in Zan's hand. And it's kind of where the ball gets rolling with the Jeskai deck. He casts his first Planeswalker and gets to untap with it, which now means he can go for 2 Planeswalkers. See if he can maintain them into the next turn. There is the second red. Sulfur Falls. And choice of 5 mana Planeswalkers. He put the Sarkhan in his hand, but Zan has the one of Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. And I really like this from him. A -3 to tuck the Basilica Bellhaunt.
All about patience, keeping the battlefield clear, trying to untap with as many Planeswalkers as possible.
Yeah, I really like the way you're phrasing that. Yeah, just the goal is untap. How many Planeswalkers can I have on the untap?
Yes, exactly.
Esper doesn't have haste, so it looks like the answer is going to be 2.
Right, and presumably the more planeswalkers you get to untap with, the more cards you get to draw, which in this style of fight, it's not exactly life total that you care that much about. Someone's going to get around to winning when the cards have settled, and you need to have more cards in order to be the one who gets around to winning.
To Kenta we go. Here's Thief of Sanity. That's a weaker play as Kenta passes. We already know there's Deafening Clarion in Zan's hand.
Yeah, what this is it's effectively making it so Zan can't profitably cast Sarkhan this turn.
Yeah, right. If we're measuring the game by how many planeswalkers Zan untaps with, Kenta's hoping that if he casts Clarion, the answer will be 2, not 3.
Exactly.
Not ideal, but can keep pace as Kenta misses land drops. Karn will give Zan another land. He denies the Narset. But you see just some great holdings for Zan. 2 copies of the smaller Teferi. Shock, Deafening Clarion, Land, and Sarkhan.
Yeah, that was the 3rd card that this Karn's drawn.
It's been really strong. And yeah, Zan's getting enough card advantage that at the point that Kenta redraws that Bell Haunt, it's just not going to matter. He'll have plenty of things to discard.
Syed will discard whatever he feels like.
Yeah, the board, especially with Super Friends, right? It's the board that matters, not the hand.
Exactly. Oof.
And shock, yeah, the 1 mana answer means he can use the shock and deploy the Sarkhan. The number of planeswalkers Zan's untapping with is going to get up to 3, and they're the good ones too.
Yeah, and now there's even a blocker for the planeswalkers. This is...
Yeah.
I don't want to say this...
Control.
Exactly. I was going to say this is getting out of hand, but it's much more that this is out of hand.
This is, yeah, and the question, outside of Elder Spell, there aren't too many cards of a mid-range deck that catch up. Unfortunately, Kenta, the only player, is not the player who has main deck Elder Spells in this top 8.
Right.
Kenta was going to play, yeah, and we've seen that before. Acknowledges that the fight here is over. He does not have the tools to continue, and game 1 goes to Zan Sayed.
Yep, props to Kenta for just knowing when the fight has been fought, and you should just move on. There's an incentive for some players, since it's untimed, to just go to the bitter end, but there's honestly a point where when you've been playing Magic all day, it's better for just your mental fortitude to just save it for the important games that still have meat to them.
Yeah, you don't have to play that one out. We go to the sideboard, and we might see Kenta play them out a bit longer after he can adapt his strategy. Because, well, first of all, the card I mentioned, the Elder Spell, has 2 of them in his sideboard.
Right. He didn't have any of those catch-up cards to draw to in that first game, but now he's going to have things like the Elder Spell. Narset's going to turn off some of the card advantage that Syed has access to. Duress is obviously going to tag things before they even hit the battlefield. Dovin's Veto, strong against non-creature spells, and Contempt is something else that he's probably just looking to use to... It doesn't literally have haste, but it doesn't take a turn to deal with a Planeswalker.
So looking at Kenta's list, I like a lot of these reactive cards. What I'm concerned about is kind of just where mana lines up as far as what he wants to board out when he goes for these things. Do you have an idea of how to rearrange the cards to make this strategy work?
Sure. A lot of what you're looking to do is shave the things that Syed can easily trade with. So something like, honestly, you could make a strong case for Tyrant Scorn is something that's not going to line up with what Syed does, and the only way that it's going to be trading for one of Syed's cards is if you already have something on the battlefield. If it eats a token from Sarkhan, congratulations, I still have a Sarkhan, for example.
Yeah. Though it's a mid-ranging card, I could see Kenta moving off of Basilica Bell Haunt as well, just because it feels like pound for pound, it's not matching up with the 4-drops that Zan's playing.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that last game. On turn 4, Zan played a Karn, Scion of Urza, and Kenta played a Basilica Bell Haunt.
It wasn't close.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's right there playing Mythic Rares and you're playing Uncommons.
Right.
Yeah.
How messed up is Karn? That is a colorless. That is a colorless 4-drop.
Anyone can play it.
To AABB 4-drop.
Yeah, Karn's a good planeswalker.
Yeah.
It makes excellent tokens,
He's the Scion of Urza, you see. The Scion.
So if you haven't been following on Magic Day, we had some pretty interesting previews this afternoon from Modern Horizons. If you're wondering how to get your hands on those cards, you can order them at Star City Games. That we can pre-order them now, and they will ship in just under a month on Friday, June 14th.
There's some real exciting stuff in that set. I don't know how much of the previews that you've seen so far, but full art snow-covered lands, a new sort of Force of Will for Modern.
I don't like how the Force of Will, see, I always like Force of Will in my combo decks, and I can't do it with, look.
You gotta.
I can't do it with this one.
You gotta adapt your combo.
Okay, I have to find one that's instant speed so I can do it on my opponent's turn. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's fine. Maybe
Think
we'll
about
find
it this way: Quicken.
Yeah.
Quicken lets you do it on your opponent's turn,
Great.
and
then I can have
pitches to
Force
the new Force.
Right. So that's what I'm gonna have to find. I'm gonna have to find a combo that uses the opponent's turn.
Yes.
I think that's clearly what the design of the card is telling me I need to do.
Yes, exactly.
I can't see what other use they'd possibly want for something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't.
I'm glad they're pushing instant speed combo decks.
I tried to keep it together.
So on Zan's sideboard, game one went pretty well. I'm not sure how much he wants to sideboard in here.
Yeah, and one of the things that I kind of want to point out is, one, they have open deck lists.
Right.
And two, Zan knows that Kenta is incentivized to cut a bunch of his removal. So this is maybe one of the spots where he's looking to bring in Legion Warboss, since Kenta has so many of his own planeswalkers.
That's interesting.
That's a good way to pressure, especially a Teferi Time Raveler.
Huh. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I mean, sure, because Kenta probably will cut the Tyrant's Scorns.
Imagine Kenta has a hand that's something to the effect of Hero of Precinct 1 and then Duress Dovin's Veto lands.
Now, to be fair, Kenta's Esper midrange deck is a bit different than some of the traditional ones we see in that it's more Planeswalker heavy, I think, than stock Esper midrange.
Sure.
With 11, right? He has 2 Liliana, 2 Sorin, and then 7 Teferis.
Correct. So that's
that actually that encourages you to Legion Warboss it.
But for the most part, you're not really looking to change up too much. You could just be looking to cut some of your removal, basically. Again, both players are just trying to go so far over the top of each other that they want to focus a little bit more on jamming threats until they stick.
Yeah. Can Zan move off the removal? I mean, Thief of Sanity is still a card in Kenta's deck.
Yeah, and we saw last game just how good Shock was.
Yeah.
So there's a point where you could maybe think about getting off of Deafening Clarion, because even if a Hero of Precinct 1 gets a bit out of control, you have your own version of that in Saheeli.
Yeah, that might be fine.
And Sarkhan also just turns off all of the 1/1 tokens.
Yeah, I think I agree. And I especially like in the Jeskai deck, and this goes back to Lotus Box's team design, how their interactive spells all cost 1 so that they can, it's shocks and spell pierces. It's not, lightning strikes and negates.
Right.
Now,
I believe Lightning Strike is actually something that's in the deck, but they're probably pretty interested in having it not be in the deck.
It's not. I think they have the play set of shocks, and the Lightning Strike is a 2 of.
Right.
Yeah, still a fine card, but they're showing preference, like mana cost over function. One thing I'll be interested to see is if the game goes long enough, that Kenta can make one of his 2 copies of Liliana Dreadhorde General. It's his top-end Planeswalker.
Yeah.
He might be able to break a board stall between the 2.
Yeah, it's pretty good at pressuring Planeswalkers. It's not quite as good at pressuring them as Sarkhan is.
Right.
But the fact that it just produces so many resources on its own, it means a lot. And you can't just deal with the creatures and Kenta not get paid for it.
Actually interesting. Yeah, so that's interesting. The Planeswalker focus of Kenta's deck gives you these trumps over the top. The difficulty is when I start looking at removal. Kenta has 1 Oath of Kaya, 2 D-Spark, and then went with Tyrant Scorn. There's no Vraska's Contempts at all on the list.
Right, he just has 1 out of the sideboard.
Well, yeah. There's 1 in the sideboard. And 1 Oath of Kaya is low for this archetype. His ability to answer Planeswalkers is really taxing. There's no Prison Realms anywhere in the list.
Right, he's really looking to have his hand disruption spells do that for him. And you kind of play those spells because you want to preempt the answers so you can play your slightly overcosted threats like Thief of Sanity.
It's interesting. That means if we get to a spot where Kenta starts is behind, I don't think he'll be able to catch up as well as traditionally an Esper deck can. Right, so because, removal, I was thinking function, like, that's the type of spell that lets a player come back when you're behind.
Right.
And because Kenta doesn't have the right type of removal, maybe there's more pressure on that early game grabbing the board before he loses it.
Yeah, you just really need to make sure you actually find copies of Thought Erasure or Duress.
Both players going to 6 cards here. And nod from both players, get ready for the second game. This one will get to be Kenta on the play.
Something like 3 lands, Thought Erasure, Thief of Sanity could just run away with this.
Yeah, something like that seems really strong.
Everything that a Thief of Sanity gets is just so strong.
Do you think Kenta prefers to, do you want a Thought Erasure start or a Hero Precinct one start more?
Probably a Thought Erasure one, just to make sure that you can try and pave the way for something, or make it so Syed has a harder time snowballing an advantage. It really depends on what the rest of the cards that Hiroki has to go with it are. Having that early pressure just does so much to turn off things like Narset from getting out of control, though, so it's really pretty tough. Especially on the play, it would absolutely make sense for the Hero of Precinct 1 to be better.
Yeah. We do have our first result in. The Mono Red Mirror, unsurprisingly, is the first match to finish in our top 8. It's Harlan Fear, a 2-0 winner. He's the number 4 seed. Moves on to the semifinals, where he will await the winner of this match.
No matter who he ends up playing against, that's got to feel pretty rough.
For Harlan or for the other guy?
For Harlan.
If Kenta manages to pull off the win from here, Harlan will get to be on the play. He's the 4 seed. Kenta keeps on 5. Not a bad 5. Dovin's Veto, Teferi Time Raveler, a lot to like here, and 3 lands.
Okay. This plays.
And Zan shocks his team vents into play. Possible Opt, Spell Pierce, Shock,
Yeah,
bunch of cards.
Want to have the ability to Spell Pierce something like Thought Erasure.
In this matchup, do you think, in Zan's position, do you bluff even if you have none of those cards?
Probably not, because Kenta's incentivized just to jam it a lot of the time. This being a tapped land hurts. Kenta has a copy of Thief of Sanity in his hand.
All 3 of the lands were check lands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is the drawback you'll have sometimes with these 3-color mana bases.
Yeah, you need the that one watery grave, and then everything's great.
Yep.
Zan making his 3rd lineup. He's putting his into play tapped. Knowingly go big and go. Going back over to Kenta, it's hard, right? Because whether you jam this Teferi or jam this Thief, there's a really good chance that Zan answers it at instant speed, untaps, and casts Karn.
Yeah.
And that's just a disaster.
Yeah, I think I'm more interested in playing the Thief just because there's likely to be more answers out of Syed's deck.
And Zan has the shock. And there's no way Kenta is supposed to just pass back and hold up Dovin's Veto here, is there?
Right, you're never going to get anything going that way. And when you're down in cards like this, you need something to try and recoup that loss.
Yeah, it feels like if Kenta does that, because he has no lands, what happens is Zan will just keep making land drops. They'll pass for a while, and eventually Zan will have 6 mana to Kenta's 3, and then the game's over.
That's it, yeah.
Here is Narset from Syed, finds Karn. Does he have more land drops? That one will be an interesting one. And it looks like the answer is yes. It goes for Sulfur Falls here. So we're back to Kenta. A 4th check land was the draw. Drowned Catacomb. But he will get a turn to, attempt to spell, but not going to do it. He passes to hold up that Dovin's Veto. He already saw the Karn.
Yeah, you know what Karn's coming. You kind of have to. You can't even draw more cards off these Teferis, so there's not much upside to going ahead and putting it on the battlefield.
Yeah. Right, I mean, you Right, you can still draw the card if you unsummon the Narset, and then... What's that? Oh. No, actually, you're right. Teferi, no, can't go for Planeswalkers,
Yeah,
so there's
yeah.
just... you could cast it and it would hang out.
Yeah, it would turn off the rest of Zan's instant speed interaction, which has some value, but not as much as being able to answer this in whatever Planeswalker Syed develops this turn.
Zan shocks in a 5th land, makes Teferi. Kenta will Dovin's veto it.
Oh, can't not counter that one, or else you just never get to counter anything.
Hold on. Yes. Okay. Can't not. We got to counter that one.
Listen.
There we go. I had to make the negative signs work with each other.
Look, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you want from me, Matthias.
That's the same play, but we flipped it. There we go.
Look, I come on camera. I say words.
Here's a spell, and here is Sarkhan. Kenta, not a Spell Pierce deck, and the Planeswalker enters the battlefield again, making a dragon.
Yeah, and this is likely just going to make short work of Hiroki here. This is 12 points coming across next turn.
Yeah. So we have Sarkhan in play. Kind of going to attempt to catch up here. There's Teferi. I mean, Teferi can bounce the dragon token.
All right, we have built a life gain spell.
And so the dragon was picked up, but Kenta does not draw a card. Teferi not long for this battlefield. Can be attacked down by the Sarkhan.
Yeah, and there's even a point where you may just be interested in going upstairs if you say roll up the Sarkhan, attack Hiroki directly for 8, and develop another Planeswalker. Hiroki's facing down lethal.
Plus as the Sarkhan, both Planeswalkers are dragons. Zan is going to clear the board. So clears away, deals 4, Hiroki to 16.
This is a very disciplined attack from Syed. You know, it's easy to think, let's just kill him over 2 turns, but you're up so many cards, you don't need to give Hiroki extra edges.
Yeah, both plays are probably winners, but this one, this one doesn't overplay the board.
Right, this one doesn't lose you a game you've effectively won.
Karn plus shows Teferi and Narset. Planeswalker
Which
3.
one of these would you like to put in your opponent's hand?
Well, I suppose Zan already has a Narset, so maybe you give him the Narset. I don't know how much it matters. Now, we should remember, we're post-board, so Kenta does have Elder Spell in his deck.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. If he just rips a copy of that and ruins the board, all of a sudden he's very in this game.
Yeah, it really feels like that's the card we have to see, but it is possible. Decides to give Zan the Teferi. Narset hanging out with a silver counter. Thought Erasure from Kenta.
All right, well, that's going to help pave the way for this Elder Spell that Kenta has to rip next turn.
Yeah. Here is the Thought Erasure. You know, in case there's a Dovin's Veto, make sure you get that. Hand is three more Planeswalkers.
Close game. Close game.
I like Zan, 8 Planeswalkers already. So we draw every turn, lands and Planeswalkers.
Is it the Elder Spell? No, it goes in the graveyard.
Sounds good. Yeah, Hero Precinct 1. Not going to be enough on this board. And Kenta's going to Thought Erasure again. Does it matter? Let's see, he's going to nab. Yeah, the Narset.
Okay. All right, not the Elder Spell. Hits the bin as well.
And an opt from Syed. Yeah, and at this point, he just really has to think of the ways he can that he could lose. I mean, I think he's got to identify here that Elder Spell is the way he loses as well.
That's the only thing that can really do it.
And even then, a way he can defend against that is if he just draws a lot of cards, then things are fine, right? He would just recover. He would get Elder Spelled, he'd play a bunch of Planeswalkers again. It would be okay.
Yep, and we can see him thinking about just rolling down this Karn here.
Yeah.
Sarkin up, life total down.
Love it. Swinging for 12. Hiroki down to 4. Second Narset finds another Sarkon. Kent, yeah, down to 4. Kenta's got one more turn. And back over to Hiroki we go. His draw is Duress.
Oof.
Not the right black sorcery.
Yeah.
For a second there, it looked like he had it. They're similar. But Kenta will pick up the cards. And Syed, your 1 seed, he moves on. 2-0 win over Kenta Hiroki. And